All right. With that, Claire, take it away.
Great. So first, before we really dive into the specifics of what we're going to be doing, we're just going to go over an overview of what FBT does so that we can get a little bit of a better idea of why we're doing the grant review process. So as you can see on the screen, For Better Tomorrow promotes social justice by meeting needs in the local community and the world through accountable, sustainable philanthropy and by nurturing future generations of servant leaders. So basically, we support projects that we believe are doing good in the world and strive for purposes that uphold FBT's mission. And we do that by fundraising and then using those funds to provide grants for many different projects. And we'll go over those kinds of projects in a little bit. So this is basically the FBT formula, I guess. We raise funds through the Kite Fest in July and individual and corporate donors that have supported FBT throughout the years. Adding to that, we grow and celebrate leaders with the Youth Global Citizen Program and the YICU Awards Ceremony in November, and all that equals supporting local and global causes, which is FBT's major purpose, I would say. So since its inception, For Better Tomorrow has supported 15 global grants with a total of $142,000. 48 local grants for $69,000. And we have also supported 67 Youth Global Citizen graduates and over 175 YICU nominees. FBT also has minimal administrative expenses and is proud to be a volunteer-led organization. So all the members of the board, all our supporters that come together to complete tasks for FBT are all volunteers. And then here are just a couple of our guiding principles. These will really help guide all of you volunteers who are watching this later on the recording as you're doing your reviews. So we really like to comprehensively vet projects to make sure they align with FBT principles, especially making sure they're apolitical and areligious, because projects that promote a political or religious view go against FBT guiding principles. That credibility and comprehensive vetting is really important, especially for global nonprofits, since it's a lot harder to ensure that they're the real deal when they're not just operating within McLean County. We also really like to create sustainability with projects that we support, meaning those projects with our initial help can then go on to become self-sustaining and independent and hopefully grow to a place where they don't need our support anymore, so that we can move on and support a greater diversity of projects. We also do not like to give direct financial support in our grants. So things like salary expenses, stipends, scholarships, administrative expenses are not fundable through FBT grants. Instead, we like to reimburse nonprofits for any expenses they may incur when getting materials for projects. Maybe they get an invoice from some company in which they have bought materials, and we can pay that invoice. But again, no direct financial support for things like administrative expenses, salaries. So that's something to look out for. And then again, for global projects, it's more difficult to make sure that they're actually doing the work that they say they're doing. So we do really like to have representation on the ground to ensure that this global nonprofit is really doing what they're saying they're doing. And then again, with that very low administrative expenses and volunteer-led organization, 98% of the total funds raised by FBT will go towards projects like the ones that you will all be reviewing. And then these are the kinds of global projects we've invested in. These are the kinds of projects that FBT really likes to support and invest in because they really go with our guiding principles. We really like to support projects that empower women, health projects that go towards bettering the health of a community, vocational education, WASH programs, so water, sanitation, hygiene programs for areas with unsafe access to water. And then youth and youth education programs are also really important to FBT. And then this slide just shows a few more specifics of the kinds of projects that we've supported and where we've supported them. So as you can see, we have a really big spread of global projects. We've supported 15 different global nonprofit efforts in Belize, Guatemala, Haiti, India, and Kenya since 2013. And then also since 2013, we have supported 48 McLean County nonprofit efforts. We really prefer for our local nonprofit efforts to be centered in and really supporting McLean County so that we can create sustainability not only in global communities, but specifically in our community. And then I'm going to hand it over to Vasu to explain a little bit more of the process of grant reviews.
Yeah, so for the process of grant reviews, we have 2 grant cycles. The first one is in January. It goes from January to March. During this time, FPT members and project recruitment committee members actively spread the word about availability of these grants, make sure that both local and global not-for-profit organizations who worked with us in the past, as well as new organizations, are informed about availability of FPT grants to recruit those projects. Once we do receive those, that's when we have grant review committee evaluate those grants, identify which organizations need to be awarded those grants. Followed by that, and later on we'll talk more about exact process. That cycle closes in March. Evaluations start in April, and the process goes through June. Again, the second cycle of grants will open in July and goes through September. And these grants are evaluated now, which is October through December, evaluated, allocated, and then RAD. Claire, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So this here is that we are at that step where once we receive grant applications, we go through these 5-step process. The first one is the project recruitment committee screens these grant applications. And this screening is to make sure that all applications are meeting certain criteria and guidelines that Claire talked about earlier. There are core FPT principles. Any grant applications that do not meet some of the core criteria, for example, if they're not a-religious or apolitical, those do not get passed on to the grant evaluation committee. So then step 2 is all grants that are eligible to be passed on to evaluation committee will be passed on. And that's step 2. That's where you guys all come in during the evaluation process. Each grant, each committee comprises of 2 to 3 individuals. And we make sure that we at least have one individual who is experienced with the FPT grant review process on these committees. And these teams review assigned grant applications. Most of the time, these teams are assigned one local and one global application. And we identify a timeline by which grant evaluation committee need to complete their evaluation. And the evaluation committee will be provided a rubric, which Claire will talk about in depth later on. Once you guys complete your evaluations, you turn the grant review committee completes their evaluations. They turn back to the project recruitment committee. And this is when all the grant teams come together and we do step 3, which is a collective review committee. This is where all grants are evaluated as a whole, instead of each team passing on their grants. Because we have finite resources, I think we want to make sure that we are looking at these across all evaluation committees. We definitely ask at least one member from each individual grant review team to attend this meeting. This is mostly to compare across all these grant applications to make sure that these align with overall FPT principles. Followed by that, project recruitment committee, who also serves as a screening committee, will go through a deeper dive into each of these organizations' documents, verify it's a much more thorough vetting process with the grant review committee. Following this step, the project recruitment committee then makes a recommendation to the FPT board. Upon approval by the FPT board, which is step 5, is when FPT develops MOUs and starts grant disbursement. Can you go to the next slide, please? So before I pass it on to Claire to talk more about steps 2 and 3, particularly on the rubric, for this particular grant cycle, this is 2023 fall grant cycle, we've received several global and local applications. Based on the information we had, these are the 5 groups that we had distributed. So we have the first team with Kimberly, Shloka, and Harshal, reviewing Faith in Action and Integral Heart. And I understand some of the members may not be able to join for review, which is fine. I think we'll make sure at least there is one grant review member who is experienced with evaluating our grants. The second team is Claire, Val, and Naomi. They'll be evaluating One Hope Project and Neighbors Evangelical Trust. The third team will be comprised of Adrian, Prajna, and Siddhi, evaluating BGC Livingston County, VOC Rural Development Center, which is a global grant. And then the fourth team is Janet, Shriyans, and Vivon. They'll be evaluating Illinois Art Station and El Porvenir. And the final and fifth team is Christy, Saki, me, and Pretty. We'll be evaluating Extraordinary Women, Safe Passage, and Yabal. Yabal is a application that we are still waiting on. They've requested for an extension and we've granted that. Okay, this is the step 2 we briefly touched on, and yes, I will turn it over to Claire.
Sounds good. So this is just a little bit more specifics on how exactly you will be completing the reviews. We would recommend that you definitely schedule time to meet as a team, whether that's virtually or in person. Maybe scheduling 2 one-hour meetings. The first meeting just to go over what your assessments of the grants are, start filling a rubric that we'll go over in a little bit. If you agree on an evaluation and completing the rubric in that first meeting, then that's totally fine, and you can cancel the second meeting. But if you don't align with your evaluations in that first meeting, then please use the second meeting to make sure that you have an aligned front when we go into the November total team evaluation of all the grants. Now, Connie, if you could please click on that grant application review guidelines. And we'll go a little bit over the review guidelines and then especially the rubrics that you'll be filling out, just so that we're all clear on how to fill them out. So this document has some good information in it, like the total amount of money that we have to give. So for example, 70% of the money that we get that we have allocated for the year goes to global grants, and then 30% goes to local grants. And then each of those amounts is split in half. So we give half of the money in quarter 2 and half the money in quarter 4. There are also some helpful links on there. For example, the protocols are really helpful. Those give you a little bit more information about what exactly we're looking for in both global and local projects. I would really recommend reading those carefully before you start your evaluation. And then there's also a similar document for the local nonprofits. And then we have rubrics on there. I would especially like to go through the global project rubric really quickly because that one can be a little bit confusing on first glance. So once you start your reviews, you'll get access to a Google Drive folder with all of the information necessary for a nonprofit's application inside that folder. There will be a rubric like this linked inside that folder for each project, for each global project. At least the rubric for local projects looks a little bit different, but there should be a rubric already created in those folders for you to fill out. For the global project rubric, this first screen that you come on, and you can see at the bottom how it says Screening Project Recruitment Committee, this will already be filled out. This is like Vasu was talking about, the project recruitment's initial evaluation to make sure that these grants can go on to the next step. And then that second tab, which is Evaluation Grant Review Committee, is what all of the volunteers will be filling out. So this is basically to give both you and us a good idea of what the nonprofit stands for and what their interests are, and if they would be a good project for FBT to fund. So there are a lot of questions there on the left that are really just an overview of all aspects of the nonprofit's application. You should be able to find most if not all of this information within the application and the attached supporting materials that you'll be able to find in that folder. But if you can't, reach out to us and we can either answer those questions for you or put you in contact with the nonprofit to gain a little bit more information about that. On the right there, you see a scorecard. This scorecard is what we're going to use when we meet together as an entire group in November. This basically gives a quantifiable value to your assessment of the nonprofit. These questions are more of an overview of the entire nonprofit rather than pretty specific, like you'll see on the left. So these questions on the right basically just generally evaluate, is this a good nonprofit? Does it align with FBT's goals? Do we think that this nonprofit is and project is sustainable under FBT's funding? Stuff like that. So we'll bring all these together and evaluate these scorecards as a group according to the value they're given, and then kind of evaluate them after that. And then the third tab, post-review approval, you don't really need to worry about that. That's what Vasu was talking about after the chosen grants are evaluated and then sent over to the board. We'll just do a little bit more evaluation to make sure they're really what they say they are, a little bit more vetting into the specifics of what they do. And then if we could just look at the local rubric really quickly, because it's not really complicated. It's just something general that you can use to go over the local nonprofits. It looks a lot like that scorecard that we have for the global rubric. So as you can see, it just automatically assigns a value. This rubric is a lot shorter because, like we've mentioned before, it's a lot easier for us to verify that local nonprofits operating in McLean County are doing what they say they're doing, are making a sustainable impact on the community because we're living inside that community. So this, like the global nonprofits, this link will also be, a rubric will also be linked within the Google Drive folder for each local nonprofit. I think that's everything with those rubrics, so we can head back to the slideshow. So yeah, as a team, complete a rubric for each grant. You should all have access to those folders probably shortly after this meeting. And then, like I've been talking about, we're going to, like I and Vasu have been talking about, we're going to have a big entire meeting for all of the grant review committees. That's scheduled for November 2nd. Probably, I believe you've all gotten a calendar invite for this meeting. Basically, we're going to put together all the scorecards and rank them on the numbers that we've given them. We're going to kind of compare them, the numbers, just to make sure that we believe they were all given fair scores. And then we'll pick probably the top 1 or 2 global grants, and then maybe a few more than that for the local grants, just because local grants typically request less money than the global grants. And then once we've decided on a final roster, I suppose, of grants that we would like to give out, we will submit that recommendation to the board for funding. I think that's everything we had to go over for the review. So I'll pass it back over to Vasu for a little bit of an overview on a new technology tool that we'll be using.
Yeah, so thank you, Claire. That was a very thorough overview. So we truly appreciate all of your guys' help with these reviews. FBT is entirely a volunteer-led organization, so we truly value your participation in this process. We also want to make sure that you can log your hours in so that we can better track your time. So when you do need to run a report or actually need some sort of certification on your hours, we'll be able to do that. So FBT is launching a new tool for us to better do that. This is called Rent to Help. And Pragya, since you're the only one on this call today, I went ahead and invited you over to Rent to Help. You should have received an email, and it will look something like this. And it is not phishing email. It is legit coming from FBT. It actually talks about you being able to create your own username and password. You should receive a temporary username and password, and once you try to log in, you should be able to change your password. Can you scroll down a bit? Funny, are you controlling this one? Okay, perfect. So once you're there, I'll draw your attention to the screen below. You'll see different sections of the screenshot. You'll of course see if you have any schedules coming up that are assigned to you. You'll see that on the top right-hand corner. But we also kind of put any kind of notes in that notes section to really alert you on. Initially, it would be right now, if you log in there, you'll see a welcome message about when to help and what it is used for and what you can expect from the tool. But later on, as we move forward with various projects, we may put other notices out there. For you to log your time, there are two ways you can do that. If you scroll down a little bit more, honey. So for grant evaluations, especially, because we want you to evaluate these grants within a time frame, but not necessarily, we are not going to schedule a time for you to evaluate these. We'll probably do this at your convenience during an allocated time frame. Whenever you do put in your hours, you can come in to your schedule and add your own shift. And you can put in a little message that says, I've participated in evaluating this grant for this many hours. And on the back end, we'll be able to see that. Alternatively, there's a second way you can do that today. As you go ahead and experiment with this tool, hopefully after this meeting, I have created some schedules that are available for you to claim that you have participated in this orientation, which is down below. And the way you would do this is under your schedule. If you go to your trade board and recents, you will be able to see available schedules for you to pick up. So there are multiple other functionalities within the tool. I strongly encourage you to use the user guide to explore various options. But I think for our purposes, these two are the ways in which you can start recording your time. If you run into any issues, please let me know. If you did not receive an email, please let me know. Happy to send that out. And if you have any feedback on how we can improve this process, that would be very helpful. We are, like I said, we are just in the process of rolling this out. So any information would be very helpful. This document that we are showing here will be shared with you. There is additional information in that document. We strongly encourage all our helpers to turn on all the notifications within the tool. What this does is, if you're interested in continuing to be an active member of FBT and participate in various activities, anytime we post something, you will get an alert on your email that you've registered with us. So it's a fairly straightforward tool. Hopefully, you guys will find it useful.
Awesome. I just got the email, so I will log into that after this meeting.
Thank you. I believe that was last of our presentations, Pani. So Pragya, as this is a lot of information we threw at you. Again, we have recorded all of this. You can go back and watch bits and pieces. And Claire did a fantastic job of explaining the rubric. I will say this, the project review committee here is absolutely thrilled to have all of you guys evaluating the grants. We'll be here to answer any questions you might have along the way. And believe me, you'll have a few, especially as you're evaluating global grants. Please do not hesitate to contact us. We are here for you.
Thank you, Vasu. Thank you, Claire and Val. So Prajna and everyone else who is viewing this video, we didn't kick off at introductions, but Claire, Val, and Vasu are the people who make this magic happen behind the scenes. So very much appreciative of the team that runs things through. As mentioned, FBT is an organization that runs on volunteers. So certainly these three individuals have made this happen, and we lean on you to help us make the right decision. We raise funds with utmost interest in ensuring that people who are making these donations to FBT, we are making prudent choices with the money that comes our way. And the best way we do that is picking causes that are really advancing humanity and in a way that can sustain itself, right? So we appreciate your input in helping us make those decisions as well. So feel free to reach out to us, to either Val, Claire, Vasu, or myself if you have any questions. We will share this recording with those who were unable to attend the meeting today, but also get you a link to the presentation material, the guidelines, and everything else that comes with it as well. So let's pause and see Prajna as our lone volunteer on the call. Do you have any questions that you might be able to ask on your behalf or on behalf of people who are not here right now?
Right now, I don't have any questions. So, but would the best way to communicate be email or text?
I would recommend, Prajna, try email. So contact us at forbettertomorrow.org. I know you know that. I'm just repeating it for folks who may view the video down the road. But Prajna, feel free to text us as well if you know any of our contact information. Either one would work, but we're not going to share our phone number on this recording. But if you have it, feel free to use that information to contact us as well.
And funny, I'll add, when to help is also a great way to reach out. There is a email button right from when to help that will trigger an email to whoever you are contacting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.